Instead of trying to change the white man in your mind, make you accept us, we change the mind of the black man and make him accept himself. And as soon as he accepts himself, he'll solve his own problem. He won't be trying to force himself into your factory and into your bedroom and into your kitchen.
With no education, you have neo-colonialism instead of colonialism, like you got in Africa 9, like you got in Haiti. So what we're talking about is there has to be educational program. That's very important. As a matter of fact, we so important for us that a person has to go through 6 weeks of our political education before he can consider himself a member of the party, able to even run down ideology for the party. Why? Because if they don't have the education, then they're nowhere. You dig what I'm saying? They're nowhere because they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. You might get people caught up in the emotionalist movement. You understand me? You might get them caught up in because they're poor and they want something. And then if they're not educated, they want more. And before you know it, they'll be capitalists. And before you know it, we have Negro imperialists.
Peace and Black Power families, brother Agyei Tyehimba of Harlem Liberation School, where we teach our people to wake up, clean up, and stand up, in the words of brother Malcolm X. I hope everyone had a happy and pleasant and productive holiday season, whatever you celebrate. I hope that in this new year you're feeling at peace, you're feeling hopeful, because one of the things our people desperately need in this very demoralizing world where you turn everywhere, it seems like something bad is going on. They're exposing celebrities and all this craziness going to distraction. It's very easy to feel overwhelmed and to feel burdened and to feel like we'll never win. And that's what the enemy wants. And I'm here to tell you, Harlem Liberation School does not support that. We believe in telling our people the truth, sometimes the uncomfortable truth, but we do not believe in demoralizing our people. Because if people have no hope, there's no movement or organization they're going to be a part of. People have to have hope. So I hope you're feeling hopeful in 2024 that you're going to make it hopefully better than 2023. Family, this evening we're talking about under the topic of we need hospitals too, right? And I have to say, to frame this discussion, at this topic, the topic of this particular broadcast, and let me thank all of you for watching live, and let me thank those in advance for watching the later recorded version. Let me say that first of all. And let me also see, we have some comments from the Queen. She says, Wukusu to the family. She's welcoming you to Harlem Liberation School. We say Wukusu back and Wukusu to all of you watching. And of course, we ask you to support the movement. Subscribe to Harlem Liberation School's YouTube channel. Help us to get bigger so that we can have more tools to reach more people with what we believe is life-sustaining information and nation-building information. All right. Now, having said that, this topic tonight comes from a direct experience, and I guess most immediately it comes from me and my queen's experiences in some of these New York City hospitals. As you know, I've had a few minor strokes. I've gone through a few things medically. I've had a surgery before, and it put me out of commission for a while, and this and that. So I have some experience in these hospitals, you know, and my queen most recently has really, 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 really gone through a lot, family. We certainly she's posted about her experiences. I've posted, and I'm very private, and so I'm not gonna get all into the specifics of that. But just to say that she's been in some crisis and she's been in great discomfort, and we are happy to see that some members of the community have shown great compassion for her. That warms our hearts. It makes us feel good. It makes the burden just a teeny bit lighter. We appreciate you all for that. Um, but being in the hospital so often in the last 2 months, particularly, and me really getting a chance, not just kind of tending to her, obviously, and being supportive of her, but like really observing the hospital environment and talking to some of the people, other visitors there and patients, and looking at the workers and talking to the workers and observing the doctors and how they talk to people. I really came away from this experience like, you know what? We got to talk about this. We got to talk about this. And I think I'm going to say this because I often talk about this issue of nation building. And some of you watching may have talked about it or heard fellow Black nationalists, Pan Africans like myself, talking about we got to build a nation and these are components of a nation. And what do you hear people talk about? They usually talk about what type of things? Rhetorical question. They talk about stuff like we need schools, we need to create jobs, we need our own policing or law enforcement mechanism, we need farms. You hear this all the time. I've never, well, let me not say that. But in recent times, when I hear these discussions of nation building from my beloved Black nationalist Pan Africanist community, I never hear anyone say, we need hospitals. Right? We need, and this is not something that's symbolic, this is not for to be performative or dramatic. We need hospitals. Some of you watching may have had to visit the hospital yourself for yourself. You may have had to go visit a relative or a friend. This is real talk. Every time I go to social media, another social media friend, I'm seeing they was in the hospital. I've had people that died during the COVID epidemic, people that in my age bracket in their 50s that I grew up with, dead and gone from some physical ailment. So it just makes me my experiences with the hospitals and medical system and my queen's experiences and observing this, really closely observing this family, led me to say I need to do a live to bring to our attention that this is a discussion that we need to have. We need to be talking about it because if you don't have the thought, you won't have the action. If you don't think of something, if you don't have the idea of something, you're not going to do anything about that particular thing. Right. So these are a few things that you should know that undergird and support this conversation. I'm no medical expert, but I just want to have a general conversation with you. Things you should know as Black people, and you can include many Latinos, particularly the darker Latinos, in this discussion. We have less access to good health care than most people. Now, let's start there. We tend to live in communities with really serious environmental issues. So we may live in places where there's a whole lot of highways and a lot of this automobile exhaust fumes coming out, and buses and trucks just sitting there all day, right? Particularly in the Bronx, which leads in asthma and a lot of respiratory issues because it has so many highways. Uh, where I live in the Hamilton Heights section of Harlem, you have a park, Riverbank State Park. They have these towers and they have a sanitation department, and these towers are spewing toxic fumes that are known to create respiratory issues and also uh, known to create cancers. Right. So our people tend to live in these communities where they got all types of toxic environments going on. So we're more predisposed to cancers and respiratory issues than most people. Right? That's important for you to know. It's important for you to know that we tend to have lower life expectancy than other people. And it really saddens me to say, especially black men whose life expectancy is 66.5 years old in a nation where other people live to be 75. And that's not something to take lightly, family. How many black men do you know in your family gone? And they're not even 70 yet. Or they didn't get to make it out their 50s, like my father, or my uncle. So these things are very real. When we talk about the things we need as a nation, you gotta have hospitals in that conversation. Gotta have them. We should also know that this is very important. We talk about white supremacy, systemic racism, and white privilege, and you hear all these big words sometimes. Sometimes you wonder, well, how does that play out in real life in real time? We tend to suffer from the racial, cultural, and class prejudices of other people. We suffer because of other people's inaccurate perceptions of us. I want to repeat that. I want you to really think about that. We suffer not from something we've done negatively. We suffer because other people look upon us with scorn and disapproval and hatred and resentment. And it's one thing if it's somebody you see on the train or your public transportation system in your city and they looking at you with scorn. Oh, so what? They don't affect your life. But what happens when you go to a restaurant and you're eating food served by people who don't like your people? What happens, when your kids are going to a school and they're being taught by teachers and administrators who hate the very sight of your people, and they're in their care for all day. They're in their care. What happens when you go to a hospital and you're sometimes unconscious, sleep in a hospital bed with a gown, nobody's there, it's early in the morning, and people come and prodding you, sticking you with stuff, and your very life, people are operating on you, family, poking and prodding and doing intrusive things, and they hate you and don't even know you. So you can't. This is very important. This particular point is very important. Our lives. You think about this. What happens when you're black and you get in some type of dispute? Someone trying to rob you or sexually assault you, and guess who you got to call? This is when you really see how dire a situation is. You got to call the very enemy that mows us down in the street with impunity, that kills us, that has a hatred for us. So we're dependent in some degree, even in our disputes. We call 911, and guess who comes? Fire in your apartment, guess who comes? And these are the people you got to depend on for service. So in the case of medical, this is I've been listen. I'm gonna tell you, I've been in the hospital in the bed, and I was just been as pleasant. Thank you very much. Not overdoing it, but just thank you. We appreciate your service. Cool. I keep it cool. People feed me in a restaurant. I keep it cool with them because I always think, what happens when they take something in personal and use their power or privilege in a situation to hurt you, to put something in your food, give you that special sauce, to be a little rough when they're trying to find your vein, they being a little rough with it. Whereas with other people, they say, okay, dear, take care. Okay, hold on, relax. They're very sort of pleasant, right? Bedside manner. With us, they're rough. And let me tell you, this racial element should not be trivialized. Forget the white man's name, but he's considered the father of OBGYN, goes way back to the 1800s. This man had a racist belief that black people, women in particular, didn't feel pain. I'm gonna say that again because that's just as crazy as all get out. This white man who's the father of OBGYN in America believed that black women didn't feel pain. So guess who he operated on when he was doing his OBGYN experimentation and exploring? Enslaved women. family, black women. And he was rough. He was operating on them and doing procedures with no medication, no anesthesia, family, because of his racist belief. So please understand what I'm talking about. When people are racist and you see them on the train, you don't have to deal with them. That's one thing. When they racist and they're your boss, they got the power of you eating or not. They're racist and they're your doctor. They're racist and they're your nurse. They racist and they're your teacher or your kid's teacher. That takes it to another dimension. They exert power over your life. This is very, very important. Or this thing where these doctors think, oh, all black people are drug addicts. Oh, y'all Negroes come in here making up stuff so you can get some oxy and you can get some type of high powered uh, uh um, medication because you really not sick. You here because you want to get high. And imagine if that's an actual belief people have of your people. And let me tell you, many of them do. There was a thing when COVID was happening, fam, about 2 years ago. There was a sister, oldest black woman, and she was an actual doctor, and she had gotten COVID, and she was telling her story. She did lives, man, and she was talking about how she was telling these people, "though, you got to give me this. Please do this. Don't do that. Give me this." And they were giving this sister a hard way to go. This was an actual physician that would have been treating patients like herself, and they weren't listening to her. And she was so-called medically trained and had that credential. They have this idea that we're always trying to get over. This goes back to the stereotype of the welfare queen, the black people that got legitimate jobs and got what they're getting welfare benefits. We somehow getting over. And the really amazing thing about this family is that we are the ones that were pimped and leased out and enslaved and sharecropping and being leasing us for convict labor and getting over on our labor, exploiting us. We're the ones that were gotten over on more than anyone. And yet people look at us like we're getting over. If you ask me, we can talk about reparations, but guess what? Technically, we shouldn't be paying for no college education. Technically, we shouldn't be paying all those damn taxes we pay. It seems like we paid a lot of taxes through our labor for hundreds of years. We got to get paid for pain, suffering, negligence, abuse, and economic exploitation. And by the time you account for that, we wouldn't have to owe no taxes, no college tuition, nothing. So it's a lot of nerve that the people who are most responsible for inflicting brutality and negligence and abuse and no humanity should be the ones looking upon us, you like we're trying to get over. How many of you had relatives that worked 2 and 3 jobs and went to school, single parents doing all this stuff, and they looking at us like we trying to get over? We die early, usually not trying to get over because we're overworked and because we're stressed from all the stuff we got to do. So it's very insulting, family, on so many levels. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to look at some of the comments we have, and it's really something. Really something. Let's go through some of our comments. We got the Queen. She's responding. Yes, sir. She's breaking it down. Sister Mila in the building. Power and peace. Thank you, power and peace to you as well, my sister. Shout out to Sister Mila, brother Amun. Recently got married. Very recently, doing big things in the Houston area. We certainly support them. Our Black Liberation Movement family also in Mississippi and in Tennessee. We support. Um, and Mila's basically saying, yeah, this is in fact something to think about. And, brother the Nabby Crow in the building, my brother. What's up, King? Glad that you could make it. Sister Brenda, shout out Sister Mila in the building. And so I just wanted to show some of the comments. Oh, and so the Queen says she's giving some. This is very important to have real life testimony, family, right? From somebody who just. So she's saying the very doctor who assisted with putting a hole in her lung questioned how much pain medication she needed. Now you know, I'm trying not to use profanity. I'm trying to work on my not using profanity. But that's really something. I mean, it's really something. And done did this procedure that they know has to be painful because they're a doctor. And then they're giving you a hard when she said, "I'm in pain," they giving her a hard way to go. So now you gotta go through a painful procedure and argue with the doctor over pain medication, right? You damn right, and then Crow. A lot of them, a lot of hospitals are racist. And remember, when we say hospitals, institutions, we're talking about what? People. We're talking about people running and working in these institutions. And then, as the Queen says, uh, in response to her argumentation, the doctor says, "Oh, we're gonna get you some Tylenol." I mean, I'm laughing not because it's funny, but it's really bizarre. You gonna send her with Tylenol? And she got a damn tube going through her side, piercing through her, and the ribs going in her lung. And you gonna give her Tylenol? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So the reason that I felt we need to talk about that, I was telling the Queen, I want to do a live. I'm no medical expert, God knows. I'm certainly no perfect physical specimen. I used to be, fam. You might not know it now, but I used to be tip top. But years, age, and stuff happens, whatever. I want to share some of my recent observations real quick. Then I'm gonna let y'all go back to what you're doing. I want to thank you again for joining us, joining me, joining Harlem Liberation School. So while the Queen has been in the hospital, I'm gonna say since late October, since the last week of October to now, about at least once every week for about 2 months. She's been back and forth a lot, and that's given me an opportunity to really, like, when I go to places, I observe them, and I'm going to suggest when you go to places, don't just be present. As the Buddhists say, be mindful, be aware, be in the moment, like look at stuff, ask people questions, look around, be observant. And when I was being observant, asking her questions here and complaining about pain, hearing people yelling, seeing people that clearly had serious mental health issues, where they were borderline violent, had propensity for violence, uh, in beds right next to regular people that was there for whatever they were there for. And he's like, whoa, that's not good. They can't put those people right there. No, that's a hazard. I talked to certain people. One elder told us that she was in emergency for this was her third day, and they hadn't fed her anything. No food for 3 days. You know, everybody doesn't have where they can go order out, go to Grubhub or have some relative to go get them some Domino's pizza or cook something and bring it in. Right? So it's like, and then some people getting food and other people ain't. I saw that with my own eyes. I saw nurses. My baby girl, I call her my big baby. My big baby here have a nurse assigned to her. She see this nurse one time in 3 hours. Like you go to a restaurant and the waiter or waitress, they talk to you, take your order, you don't see them again for a long time. You're supposed to keep coming back, checking in, observing, letting them know what's going on. If they say I'm in pain, the nurse is supposed to, my daughter Nubia is a nurse. I'm gonna bring her in one of these discussions one day and have her talk about some of these issues. But I saw that with my own eyes. Like, when did we see this lady? Sometimes she never even met her nurse. So there was times that her nurse didn't even say, "Hey, I'm so and so." Ridiculous, fam. Now, part of that I'm assuming is because we're talking New York City has damn near 8 million people, fam. That's a lot of people for a city. It's overcrowded. It's heavily populated. There's not enough hospitals to service everybody. So, and people tend to get sick in the winter. So yeah, I get it. It's overcrowded, this and that. I charge some of these things to that issue, but I see great mismanagement and disorganization and poor leadership. I'm a visitor. I have to get up, Other visitors are getting up, they're going to the, I think you call it the head nurse, the charging nurse, whatever. Hey, what's going on? What's going on with this? What, they haven't eaten, or they're in great pain, or there's a woman next to us that's shouting at the top of her lungs, fam. You would think somebody was in there stabbing her, but she's in such pain. Then you got people that's just, I'm not gonna say crazy. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say be politically correct. That have serious mental issues. That's just in there yelling, bugging out. You understand? So all of this is going on, and then and I have to say this because I want to paint a balanced picture. We ran into some new Africans in these hospitals, fam, that were beautiful. You hear me? Beautiful people come in and we talking like we knew each other for years, like we cousins catching up. Say, hey, we seen you here a lot. You okay? What's your name? Do you want some juice or anything? Do you want a sandwich from the refrigerator? Just okay. My name is so and so. We had at least, I know at least 2 or 3 people say, listen, my name is so and so. If you ever hear, you see me, you talk to me, and if I can get you something, I get it. But you know what? You shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't have to do that. You should have to have a hookup or somebody. Everyone should be given the best high quality service when they get in these hospitals. But guess what, Africans? We not naive, are we? We know that there's a thing called white supremacy in full effect. So we have to know that white supremacy, this kills me. People think that only white cops are racist. And that really kills me. Wait a minute. If racism is an idea that's invisible, that exists in your brain, that anybody can have, we got to assume there's teachers that are racist, there's veterinarians that are racist, there's police that are racist, there's firefighters that's racist, there's construction workers that's racist, there's political people that's racist. Oh, and yeah, there's doctors, fam, that are racist and arrogant. One of my observations was there were times when you don't know who the doctors are when you're visiting in the ER. You're stressed. You may have been there a long time. You know you're hungry. Your person you visiting is in pain. So you just see somebody walking by with one of those I don't know what you call them, those hospital uniforms on, and you say, "Excuse me, is it possible we can get a juice for my baby girl?" I'm a doctor. Okay. Is it possible we can get a juice for my baby girl? I didn't ask you what your rank was or what your job title was. I asked you. So it's that arrogant element. Oh, I'm a doctor. I don't. That's beneath me. I don't do that. So my observations, all of this, I'm saying, family, because it led me to say, you know what? We always talk about we need schools. And, I'm an educator. That's my thing. So I'm gonna say we need schools and teachers to teach in those schools who are right and exact, understand the history and culture of Africa, understand white supremacy, and know how to teach and know how to reach our kids and love our parents and families. But guess what? Schools aren't the only institutions that exist in the nation. We need post offices. We need law enforcement. We need governing structures. We need hospitals. I never hear anybody say we need hospitals. And the disturbing thing is if you don't say it, if you don't think it, it won't materialize. I read one article that said that we used to have, I was astounded. I don't even know if it's true. It said 500 black hospitals in the country. And now they said there's only one in DC. I think it's the Howard University Medical Center. And I said, wow, that's not good. And I'm thinking not only do we need hospitals, we need clinics that are black owned and black controlled. And not only do we need clinics and hospitals, you need a place that trains black clinicians and black medical staff. You need black medical colleges like Meharry used to be. I think Meharry is still around. So it just got me to thinking we need hospitals too. That has two meanings. It means who owns the hospitals that we go to? Two types of people, generally Jews and Catholics, right? St. Luke's, Mount Sinai. If you look at the names and the backgrounds, they typically are religiously based. Typically. Cornell was a Protestant owned Cornell Center, which later became, I forget what they call it now. it was Protestant people, but they usually are groups of people, ethnic or religious. And I look around and say, where's ours? We need to have hospitals staffed by people, not just black, but competent and that have compassion for people. They know I got to be compassionate to somebody that's in an emergency room, in a gurney, in an emergency room. I have to treat them different. They're in a different situation that requires a different type of tone of speech. It requires more tenderness and empathy, and even the family members visiting them. I have to assume they're going to be confused. They got questions. I have to be able to say, "I'm sorry. I know how you must feel. I can't answer that. I'm going to try to get to somebody who can," but not kind of just be dismissive of them. I'm going to pause and look at some comments. I think we have more comments, and I definitely want some people to jump in. And Brother Namdi's like, "Wow, wow," and yes. So the Queen says the family members had to bring food, had to arrange for her to get food. That's ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous. And Brother Namdi is absolutely correct when he's attributing this to capitalism and racism. But yeah, and I'm almost suspecting, family, that I think sometimes they keep people there longer than they need to if they have a certain insurance that covers it to give them all these tests and all this stuff and all, that sometimes they may not need. I think there's definitely a profit motive, right? Definitely a profit motive. Okay. And Queen says she couldn't order food. And she's connected to some vacuum thing on the wall. She can't. She's not in a position to do that. And technically, you love your people. So if you got it, you're gonna try to say, well, let's get her this, or let's send this, or we'll bring it personally, or we'll do Grubhub, or whatever we'll do. But if the hospital has the facilities to get you a fruit plate, sliced fruit and cantaloupe and grapes and whatever they got, and juices, and maybe a little scoop of ice cream and there's a little tea or coffee or a little soda can, they should provide it. These people act like they went in their pocket in their personal bank account and bought the food in the hospital. Oh, I don't know if I can. I mean, I'm different. I don't know, family. If I was in places like that, I would be giving it away like I got you. They act like they bought the food in there. It's really something. And some of them are our people. I need to be real clear about that. Some of these are black people and Latino people just as surly and just really ugly in their behavior, right? Really ugly. And yes, Queen, we need to train our own people. This is not just about the need for black hospitals. There's so much more to this. It's a complicated issue. We need the hospitals, we need the clinics. Hello, ambulances. There's places in Brooklyn that have these strong Jewish enclaves. They got their own ambulances, Hebrew writing on them. I mean, we have to start thinking like that. We got to train people. We got to train people on not just the medical piece, but the delivery, the bedside manners. It's something I say about education. You get a doctorate, you're automatically qualified to be a professor? No, because having knowledge and knowing how to impart knowledge are two different things. So having medical ability and knowing how to properly administer that medical, knowing, oh, this person is acting this way. I know the psychology of a patient that's afraid. She's a little defensive, or he's a little funny. They're afraid. They're alone. They're in a gown. They're partially exposed. They worry. There's a lot going on when you're a patient, and so you're feeling vulnerable. So yeah, you're gonna probably be a little edgy. You didn't eat, right? Last thing time you ate was yesterday. So yeah, and doctors and medical people should understand human psychology. Should, oh, this person's acting this way, and not take it personally, like the patient got a problem with you. The patient has issues, and you just happen to be the person kind of interacting with them. So it's a lot. How we got to teach people. And so, Brother Nambi, yes, they got to have the right politics. Yes, because they come with the Western ideology of medicine is going to be a lost cause. I agree with that, but I'm also going to say this, Brother Namdi. Black people go to work for hospitals and schools and all types of places that they don't agree with politically. The white man would tell them, listen, look at here. Look here, if you're going to stay here, this is the standard you got to operate. You got to meet. If you don't meet this standard, you are gone. So ideally, yes, these people in these hospitals that we have will be our people, and they will know how to. They will have our politics, but they may not. All black people ain't going to be nationalists and Pan African families. That's just not. That's not going to happen. But guess what? If they working in our institution, they're going to be expected like any other institution. This is the expectation, right? That you're going to meet. If you don't meet this, you're gone. You know. So that's something to think about too. But Brother Nambi, your point is well taken. Don't get me wrong. And yes, the Queen says, and adopt an attitude of excellence, competence, right? Certain professions or vocations require certain qualities. If you're not compassionate, if you don't personally feel it when you see somebody suffering, if you don't say, damn, that brother out in the street eating out the garbage, and you don't think, damn, man, I wish I could help. If you don't got that type of spirit, you shouldn't work in a hospital. You shouldn't work as a teacher. You shouldn't be in no school. You shouldn't be in the church. There's certain things that require certain qualities. And so I do think that people need to be better vetted, speaking to what you said, Brother Nanamdi, in a certain way. But I also think the leadership of the institution say, look, I don't give a damn what your political persuasion is. When you work here, if you want to get paid and keep this job, I better hear good reports from every patient that you interact with. I better see your stations are clean. I better see that places are kept neat. I better see that somebody's yelling and they have a problem, someone's attending to it. I don't care what you believe, but your work ethic had better be right and exact. You know? Um Sounds of saying elsewhere says those black hospitals should be funded through some type of universal health care program too. Otherwise, they'd be subject to the same market forces as these other hospitals. See, that's where it gets complicated. And that's a very good point. Sounds of saying elsewhere. These answers are easy in theory, but to actually do them requires a lot. And yes, we have to think about where does the money come from and what comes with that money and who gives the money and what are the things that we have to do for the money. It's a lot to that, but it's important we have this conversation. That's very important. Sounds and also says um capitalism. Hold on. Cap, capitalist healthcare is hellcare. I agree to that. The Namdi agrees, yes. Yes, and the Queen says every institution we create must reflect our needs and the love and respect we have for our people. And remember, family, remember, I'm a black nationalist, Pan-Africanist, probably since the age of 13. I have no impractical ideas of utopia. I do not expect our nation to be all nationalist, family. Those of you that hate gay people, guess what? There's gonna be black gay people in the black nation. You don't Are you so impractical that you think there ain't gonna be some people that's gonna be gay in the black nation? There's gonna be some feminists in the black nation. There's gonna be some backwoods Negroes that say, "Oh, we got a black nation. I want the benefits of a black nation." They may not agree with our politics. So understand, there's no utopia. And even amongst the Pan African nationalists and revolutionaries, some of us are conflicted and got some other issues. So it's not going to be a utopia, but we can still demand competence. We can still demand that we meet certain standards, right? So family, and the Queen says, yes, my love. I don't know what she's responding to with that, but I appreciate her support. I appreciate all of you coming and checking this out. But family, do me a favor. Do my Queen a favor. Do all your relatives who have died in hospitals, who've been to hospitals, who have to go to pharmacies to get medication they got to take for the rest of their lives for high blood pressure or whatever they got going on. Do them a favor. Have these conversations when you're in forums and panel discussions and at your place of worship, at a political rally, and people talk about what we need. Somebody, please say, we need hospitals, and we need to start thinking about how we're going to fund them. Our philanthropists, our NBA, NFL players who are into philanthropy and giving money, they give it to the schools. That's great because we need schools, but we need hospitals too. Start those discussions in your place of worship, in your family, your household. Think about all the people you know been in the hospital, right? And start thinking about other ways we could take our philanthropic efforts and channel them to other things we need that are under resourced. That's very important. So yes, we need military, we need all this other stuff, but we need hospitals. And guess what? We need clinics. If you look at the medical system, it has a certain structure to it for a reason. So the clinics you go to for your basic stuff, you're not going to stay overnight, you're not going to be there as long. Your blood pressure, little basic stuff they can give you, they can diagnose, you can do this. The hospitals for a whole nother thing, and the emergency rooms for a whole nother thing, right? But we need all that. Ambulance, we need a whole lot to it. But we can start with just having the idea that we need it. And that's the idea. The invisible idea leads to the tangible thing. Everything starts with an invisible idea. But people have to start talking about that more. Like really, right? So when Malcolm says wake up, clean up, stand up, let's apply that to healthcare. Wake up. Start doing the knowledge to realize, wow, we got a healthcare, we got a medical problem in the Black community. All the stuff I listed earlier and talked about, that we tend to have toxic environments with fumes and carcinogens and or deli meat full of carcinogens and all this stuff. Our where we live tends to be toxic areas, right? Uh, we tend to be the victims of white supremacy and racism and prejudices. There's a lot we deal with. That's waking up. We need hospitals. Clean up. That means we may have to correct some things about ourselves, our thoughts. That's not important. Well, we don't need that. Oh, we leave that to white people. We got hospitals, RJ. You know, the white hospitals are fine. Why we gotta have a but you need to clean that up because you're wrong about that. And then stand up means what? Address the issue. Build the institutions we need. Build the institutions we need. And I'm gonna leave you with this. This is a white man, but I want you. This really touched me. I want you to think about this. There was a white man back in, I'm gonna say, the 50s, 60s, named Jesus Christ. What's this white man? You remember his name? White man. Forget his name, but he was a comedian. And he started. This guy's a comedian, and he started something called Danny Thomas. Danny Thomas. He was a comedian. His daughter used to play Mary Tyler Moore on the TV show, right? No, well, his daughter was an actress. Forget her name. But this is a comedian. He's not the doctor. He started something called St. Jude's Hospital, family. He started it. He's dead, been dead for decades. The hospital is for cancer patients. And that hospital takes care of all costs. When you go, if your little child got cancer, you ain't gotta pay for no surgery, no medication. The parents ain't gotta pay for transportation and lodging. They cover all of that. What does that mean? That means that man may have been a jokester and a comedian, but he was serious. He had an idea, invisible idea. He started with discussions. He probably raised mad money, had fundraisers, used his celebrity, and probably created an endowment that makes compound interest over time. And that's how they have the money to do that. We need something like that. Here's someone I call my auntie. I think technically my cousin, Evelyn Blakely. Glad you could join us. She says she agrees we need good Black doctors covering all medical disciplines. That's right, all medical disciplines. And guess what? Medical isn't always physical. We got people who need psychiatric help, psychological help, right? Relationship help. We need all that. So doctors take various forms. Thank you for that, Auntie. I hope you're well. Love you. Tell Alona to call me, okay? All right. Um, and we got something else where it says the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has an Indian Health Service Division. They're the primary health care providers for indigenous people who are part of federally recognized tribes. And he says that, or she says that type of model might be something that we can build upon and emulate. And I really want you to think about that St. Jude's. That's moved. That's moving. I remember we was at the school that I helped to create in the Bronx many years ago. We had a thing. We were raising money, and we had packages, and parents and the community was giving money, and we give the money to St. Jude's. And it's really something. This is an individual white man who said, you know what? We need a hospital that deals with cancer. Maybe he had cancer. I don't know, but for some reason, he's behind that hospital, and it's going strong. You can look him up. And you know what? That white man is no smarter or better or creative than us. We can do the same. Marcus Garvey said, whatever man has done, man can do. Right? So we can do the same. The Queen says we should identify the nurses in our organizations or villages or other medical personnel and ask them to donate time to take blood pressure of our people, right? And to offer suggestions. We can build our own grassroots medical facilities in our organizations and communities. Now, not only is she right and exact with that comment, but she's built, but family, if you know your history, you know that the Black Panther Party was doing that. They always make them this crazy bunch of Negroes with guns, and they was trying to burn stuff down. But they had free breakfast programs, and guess what? They're the ones that started free breakfast. People don't know that. There was no free breakfast programs in public schools. The Panthers were doing that. And the government's way of trying to circumvent the Panther Party and cut them out the equation and make them lose popular support, they took that on. Just like the government didn't start lotteries, Black people did. Remember the numbers, games? And they took it. It's the same thing. Black Panthers had free breakfast, they had schools, free liberation schools, but they also served food to the people and they had clinics. And not only did they have clinics where they had Black doctors, they did sickle cell tests, tests for diabetes, and they even had Black people, who would take the elders who weren't as mobile to the clinics and back home from the clinics. We can do all of that. We can do all of that, what the Queen said. That is we can do that, right? As we build on the larger piece called the hospitals, we can start with clinics. We can start basic and build. Brother Mark McPhee, peace, Brother Mark, he says, we need Black hospitals. Yes, that's absolute. Absolute. And he goes on to say, we have medical apartheid in America and it's killing us literally. I'm not going to even tell you about the report I read about, man, all the Black babies, man. Mm. The Black babies that are killed and coming into the world, man. And a disproportionate number of them are Black. I mean, mm, I feel a way about that. And I think that's intentional. Anyway, so yes, we have to address this, family. I'm not going to belabor the point. I made my points clear. All of you hopefully have had a chance to address this as well. Thank you for addressing the topic. You got it. I had to, because I'm seeing my baby girl, love of my life, going through it, family. And when people you love go through it, guess what? You go through it. And you start looking at things differently. You say, wow, man, you spend a lot of time in this emergency room, so you got time to look around. You say, wow. Then you look at the quality of the food. You say, man, you can't do better than this. People not getting food, or you're not admitted yet, so you can't get. Wait, hold on. So I'm hungry though. Like, that's crazy. That's like a picture of public school. You qualify for free lunch, and they tell you, what's your grade? Let me see your report card. Let me see your. Oh, you don't have a B or A average. Oh, sorry, you can't get lunch. That's ridiculous. That's a human need, right? Um, and yes, Queen, we're going to continue the discussion. I'm going to try to get Nubia in on this. She's a registered or licensed nurse or something. She actually deals with labor and delivery. I'm gonna try to get some healthcare professionals to weigh in on this so we can get some more focused and informed discussion, because I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm just giving you my observations, right? And the Queen also says she hates the way they treat elders, and I do too. Yes. So, family, I want to thank you for joining us. I hope that this has touched you and sparked some type of feeling in you like, I gotta, Ajay's right. We gotta talk about this more. And it can start very simply. Talk to the elders, your aunties, your grandmas, your babas, and talk to them about their experiences. What do they like? What don't they like? If they had their own hospital, what features would it have? Get people invested in and have them dream, have them talk about it. That's how stuff gets done. The Black Panther Party started because they were living on the street where there was no stop sign, and people were getting hit and killed in the street. And they said, "Man, we got to start." So they started directing traffic, and then they said, "You know what? The cops is hounding us." So then they started dealing with the cops, and that's how it was born. It's organizations are born responding to issues they see, right? So we can do the same thing. If you see something you don't like, you hear your neighbors, your relatives complaining, have the discussion. Start with the discussion, and you'd be surprised where a discussion can lead. Family, I'm going to echo the sentiments of the Queen. Thank you for joining us. I hope I didn't take up too much time. This went a little longer than I wanted it to. I apologize for that. But I'm just very energized about this. I think because of my own experiences and experiences of the Queen. And I had an uncle who was a veteran who he was in the Navy, and his job was to paint inside of these submarines, and he would faint all the time. They said, "Oh, he's weak." He would try to get a discharge. "Oh, you just weak, boy. You go back and keep paint." Then found out there was something in the paint that was causing my uncle to get sick. He got dishonorably discharged and had to get a lawyer to fight it, and got honorably discharged and got a little money out of it. My other uncle, his brother, was a veteran and was rushed to the hospital for an eye surgery, and they operated on the wrong eye after denying him repeatedly. Then they denied him repeatedly a separate occasion, and he died. That's his brother, my uncle. So we all got stories, family. Some good, many bad about our experiences in these hospitals. We got to now get from the complaining stage now, use that angst, and let's do something about it. We can do it. Thank you for joining us, family. We need hospitals. We need hospitals. We need hospitals run by our people. We need hospitals where the leadership demands excellence. You can come in there thinking what you want and being what you want out there, but when you come to this job, the leadership is going to make sure you do what you got to do, right? That's what we need. If we love ourselves, we should demand the best care. Thank you, family. As always, you're going to say peace and black power. And I got 3 words. When we get our minds right, we wake up, clean up, and stand up, we will win. Thank you for joining. Please spread the word. We need hospitals, family. Peace. Don't forget to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Peace.